Hello, hello. Okay, so back again, and I have been working a little bit more on the B project, not as much on the A project, unfortunately, but the B project, the Isekai story, has had a good progress, so I'm putting all my energy into that, all the creative energy. And yes, long story short, I haven't really written any more as a continuation of the story so far, but what I have done is that I have written the end. I found the end of the story, and I've written what I guess is a draft for the last chapter. So I have an ending that's at least to me fairly satisfactory. It sort of touches on all the elements, references the elements that have shown up in the story earlier, in the beginning and so on, and I guess I have to say it myself, but I'm at least fairly satisfied with the result. It will probably have to be rewritten and so on, but as it is, I now have a target to write towards. And with that in place, I have also been able to sort of find out what's going on, what is the goal of the dastardly villain, what plans has he laid, and what is it trying to achieve. So I, at least on a sort of high level, know more or less what has happened before the story started of relevant things, and I also know how it will end. So the only thing that remains is to sort of fill out the pieces in the middle, and that's not trivial. I will have to think of a way to do that. I have also I guess you could say run into some problems relation to that. I'm not entirely sure how to proceed the story from the point where I am. I know more or less what's going to happen, but it's finding the details and making sure there's something exciting going on and so on. So would like to have I guess you could say a sufficient feeling of urgency and so on in the story. So that's a challenge now, and I also more or less decided that I need to take a short step back and try to do some world building, because I need to know a little bit more about how the different countries are located relative to each other and so on. So I had hoped that I would be able to sort of postpone that to the end. So I had originally planned to just try to finish first draft of the story first, and then go back and try to fill in the details and try to flesh out the world and so on, do the actual world building. But it looks like I will be needing to do that now. Hopefully that won't break my momentum on the actual writing of the text. We'll see, I guess. I think that the next thing I will do is to try to write a short overview of the countries that this conflict in the story touches on, and try to put together a simple map. And then when I have done that, I will have to think a little bit about how many details I have to flesh out, but hopefully it won't be too many. But anyway, I'll try to put together some world building notes and go through what I have when I have read through the story as far as I have written it. And by that I mean I won't read the ending that I have written, but I will I'd rather read as far as I have written when the story as it starts in the beginning, and then goes a little bit further than what I have read so far. So goal for this stream is to get a little bit further in the text that I have actually written, and the last stream, just to take a short recap. So the protagonist has been summoned after he unfortunately died in our world to this isekai world, and because he appears to have a magical power that isn't really that useful, he is deemed uninteresting by the king or the kingdom that summoned him. So he's not actually kicked out of the kingdom, but is escorted to the border, and from there he is left to his own devices. And he travels, or rather walks, to this next town, and there he eats some food, and he finds an inn where he can stay the night. And while he's sitting in this inn eating his evening supper, this elf comes in, this very gorgeous looking elf, and he's I'm not sure if smitten is the right term, but he's certainly interested. And she goes to talk with these two men that sit on a neighboring table, and because he thinks they look a little bit suspicious, the way they have acted in Thai evening. They haven't really been saying much, they haven't been drinking, they've obviously just been waiting for someone. He decides to follow them when the three of them leave the inn, and whether that is motive that is based in chivalry, or whether it's simply not wanting to see her go away into the night, well, who knows. But anyway, he follows them, but unfortunately he's detected, and they stun or shock him, and he falls unconscious. And that's where the story ended last time. So here we are. And then my mind blacked out, and I succumbed to consciencelessness. So the I have obviously not applied a spell checker to the text here. Still, that's sort of something I'll do later. So try not to let the creative process be interrupted by such trivialities as whether the spelling is correct or not. So that's why it looks like a complete mess. But anyway, so let's continue from there. My awareness returned. I did not know how much time had passed, but I appeared to be sitting on something hard, stone floor, my back against the hard surface, wooden wall. You have not seen him before? An unfamiliar voice spoke. No, I have no idea who he is and why he was following us. This was the elf, no doubt about that. The elegant sing-song sounds of her voice were impossible to forget. Very curious. The man spoke again. The very careful intonation of when he spoke gave me associations to a traditional British butler. He seems to be awakening. A less cultivated voice, probably one of the two men that had been sitting in the inn. I deliberately grunted, tried to stretch my body, and finally opened my eyes. Staring down at me was the angelic face of the elf looking down at me, with a mixture of concern and confusion. The cultivated man spoke again. I must apologize on behalf of my associates. They appear to have thought you some brigand that was following them with the intent of waylaying them in some way, but having gotten a better look at you in the light, it appears that they perhaps have been acting a little hastily. Still, it would be appreciated by all if you could explain what? If you explain what you were doing out on the streets this time of night in a manner that would cause concern in my associates. And looking around me, I appeared to be in some kind of store or warehouse. There were several shelves with items that I couldn't immediately identify, possibly wooden tools. There were no windows, but we did not appear to be underground, so perhaps a warehouse? Most difficult to ignore was the breathtaking elf, standing in front of me. The cultivated man was next to him, in a perfect black suit that was probably very expensive. He was tall and thin, but did not look weak. He was not wearing a monocle, but it would probably have fit him well. One of his associates was standing next to him, obviously to guard against me doing something. The other was standing at the other end of the room next to the door. The room appeared well lit, several lanterns being placed around the room. That I was still alive was probably a good sign. They did not appear to see me as a threat, but that could change if I was not careful. Trying to sound embarrassed, I looked down. Oh, you must forgive me, kind sir. I was sitting at the inn, having a little drink for myself, when this pretty lady came in. Then she left with these two fine gentlemen, and I got a little concerned that something might happen if they go walking around at night. Just wanted to make sure that they all got to where they were going, but it seems like I made your two friends here nervous. My apologies to both of you, and sorry to the lady if I scared you. The atmosphere seemed to lighten a little, both of the associates visibly relaxed. A simple misunderstanding then. The leader smiled. I just have a little business to conduct with the lady here, and then we will escort you back to your inn. This might all seem a little suspicious, but I am simply running a business that, let's say, is exclusive in its clientele. So for this reason I would appreciate if you could be a little discreet. But fear not, there is nothing illegal going on. Just consider it an opportunity to get a glimpse into a part of society that you would normally not knew existed. He then seemed to dismiss my presence completely. The elf smiled brightly and thanked me for showing concern. Then she, too, completely dismissed my presence. And with the two associates changing their focus to the outside of the store, I felt like I had been left alone. The storekeeper, let's call him that, led the elf to the part of the store where there was a set of shelves with items displayed on them. We have several types of wands, he started. Given the nature of your initial inquiry, I assume this is a given, but to make sure there is no confusion, I would like to first state that these are all made to aid in a simple type of magic rather than to aid a specific magic user. This uniformity makes it simpler to produce large numbers of wands at the cost of reducing the magic power that can be wielded by a single magic user, compared to when using a wand that is adapted to that magic user. The two continued talking. So this guy sells magic items, I thought myself. Perhaps I was the one in the wrong here. I didn't really know anything about how these things worked in this world, but I guess it is not so strange that you might want to be a little careful. Oh well, I did get to talk to the elf, so let's call this a win, even if it's a little embarrassing. Relaxing a little myself, I stood up and stretched a little. The two standing guard noticed me getting up, but everybody had evidently classified me as a non-threat, which I guess was not in the end incorrect. Without a computer, there was not really much of an advantage I had. Might as well make the most of the opportunity, I thought, and started looking around the room. One part of the room had several crates stacked from floor to ceiling. These wands, he certainly has a lot of them. Perhaps he makes them himself, and the crates contain whatever material he's using. Wondering to myself, I walked up to one of the display shelves used to show off the wands. There were 4 rows of wands, mostly identical looking, to be honest, boring looking. Mostly identical looking, and to be honest, boring looking. Hearing the word magical wand, I sort of expected some old gnarled piece of wood with some fancy gems or something attached to it. These just seemed like pieces of wood. One part that obviously was meant for holding, perhaps made by ivory, and one part which was simply a stick of wood without any irregularities. They looked like simply a stick of wood. They looked like they could have been made by a machine in some kind of factory back on Earth. Were they even magical? I bent forward to take a closer look. They did look quite boring and unassuming. Was he trying to scam her by simply selling useless pieces of wood? Was that the game here? Bending in even closer, I squinted, trying hard to see anything unusual. Yes, maybe. When I looked close, there was perhaps some weak glow around the non-handled part of the wands. I continued staring. Yes, maybe. Shift my gaze to one of the other wands. I looked closely, and there did seem to be a faint glow. Stepping back a little, now that I knew what to look after, I could in fact see that there was a glow from all the wands in front of me. Interesting. Bending closer again, I tried to see if there was any irregularity to the light. Was it equally strong? Did it fluctuate? Anything else I could see? No, it did appear to be entirely regular and symmetric. The tip appeared to be the center of the biggest concentration of light, then it faded gradually as it got closer to the handle. That made sense, I guess. Not that I really knew anything about this. I continued staring at one of the wands, but my mind started drifting. Slightly amused, I thought that you never know how life will turn out. Here I was standing in some kind of secret warehouse in a fantasy world along with an elf staring at magical wands. Not what I would have expected when I got out of bed yesterday. My focus returned to the wand. Was there something strange here? The wand I was looking at was clearly showing the strongest light at the end, and it then appeared to have an exponential loss of strength as the distance from the tip increased. But there appeared to be something irregular at the point where the magical wood meets the handle. Bending even closer, my face almost touching the wood. Yes, there appeared to be light coming out of the side near the handle, but it was not constant in the same way as the rest of the light. It flickered, appeared to move a little. It almost looked like it had some sort of leak, with magical energy leaking out of the side. I compared it to the others in the display case, and yes, they all appeared to have the same behavior. I took a step back, trying to make sense of what I saw. Is it broken? It was only when I noticed that the room had fallen uncomfortably silent that I realized that I had said this out loud. My eyes sought out the source of the silence, and both the storekeeper and the elf had stopped talking. Both of them were staring intently at me. I had made a mistake again. The 2 associates, unsure about what was going on, were staring at the storekeeper. He, still looking at me, addressed me. "Excuse me, did you say something?" Thinking desperately, I tried clearing my throat, then answering, "Oh, sorry, I just wondered, what time is it?" Expression unchanged, the storekeeper continued, "Oh, It almost sounded like you said, is it broken? Again, trying to sound stupid, I answered, broken? Is what broken? Exactly. At least not any of our fine wands. Returning his focus to the elf. I can assure you that all our wands are properly tested during construction, with any failures resulting in the destruction of the faulty wand. Oh, how impressive, said the elf. That is very assuring. They continued their conversation, again ignoring me. Phew. Hopefully that excuse was convincing. Wanting to avoid any further problems, I sat down again, throwing a look in the direction of the elf time to time. They talked for a couple of more minutes, then apparently reaching some kind of agreement, the visit was over. The elf smiled and waved goodbye. I waved back and saw her back disappear into the darkness. The two associates escorted me back to the inn, but the noisy group was still noisy, but perhaps a little bit less noisy than when I left. The innkeeper grunted at me while I crossed the room and went upstairs. A little later, I sat alone in my room, the first day of my adventure in this world over. Thinking this, I lay down to sleep, and the bed was warm. The animal skin pleasant to the touch, perhaps from sheep. Not quite able to fall asleep, I lay there thinking. Quite the eventful day. Being killed is not exactly an everyday occurrence. I am just meeting an elf. Too bad I did not get to know her better. But if I run into her again, at least I could say hello. That would not be strange. I was a little bit worried about money. I didn't have much left, but trying to find some work as a scribe or translator seemed promising. I would have to see what I could find out tomorrow. I still could not sleep. It was quite noisy here. I could hear something from outside. Was it metal on stone? Difficult to say. I still could not sleep. There was something that was bothering me. When I was in the wand store, both the storekeeper and the elf had seemed surprised. But there was something more about that. Was I right about the wands having a problem? They certainly looked like it. If the storekeeper had not known, he would probably be surprised if he was told that it was. Same with the elf. If the product in the store she was visiting was broken, she would probably be surprised and concerned about buying them. I certainly realized when I had questioned whether the wands were broken. Both of them had looked at me, not the wands I was looking at. They were surprised, but not at the wands being broken, but at me noticing. Afterwards, they both went back to pretending I hadn't said anything, which means she knew. She knew they were broken, and if she knew, he probably did as well. And there was this one moment when they were both looking at me, they were both surprised, and the mask they maintained slipped, even for just a second. His cold, calculating face. If he knew the wands were broken and that I knew, could he decide on anything but to get rid of me? And the elf, in that moment, she did not look anything like the carefree and innocent persona that she had before. Her eyes were scary but unreadable. What had she been thinking? At that moment, the stairs creaked, then creaked again. I could hear angry whispers. I did not catch any words, but it sounded like the language that the two men working for the storekeeper had used when the elf arrived at the inn. So they were coming to finish me off. Too bad. I had nothing to defend myself with. Thinking this, I heard something from outside the inn again. And suddenly, something hit the window with strong force. The whole room shook and the frame of the window was partly damaged. Once again, something hit the window and it flew inwards. From outside in the corridor, I could hear shouting. Still laying in bed, I looked out of the window, and there, gripping the windowsill in one hand, a huge batlax, seemingly attached to her back, was the elf. She did not look innocent and carefree, more like a barbarian Viking from the north. Behind her, appearing to float in the air, was the person that had been sitting alone in the inn early in the evening. The hood was still covering the face, but what I could see of it looked feminine, with a grinning mouth showing long pointed teeth of an animal. The shouting from the corridor increased and was not accompanied by some unpleasant accompanied by some unpleasant piercing tone increasing in frequency. And a strange light was flowing into the room from under the door. Magic? Come with us if you want to live. The elf spoke calmly from the other side of the room, at the same time reaching out the hand to me. I grabbed the hand. In an eye blink I was pulled out of the bed and into the darkness. Wind flowing around me, I could feel us flying up into the air at high speed. Below me, a yellow light blossomed out from where my room had been. A little later, the sound of the explosion hit us. I do not know how we flew, but my ears ringing, we raced through the night. And that's probably a good place to end it. One more step of the story. And now we have gotten to the point where he meets he meets the elf again, and currently the companion of the elf, and well, we can at least hope for his sake that these will become his companions also. And however the meeting goes is the next part, and that's basically how far I have come in the sequential part of the story, starting from the beginning. It's the next bit is also a little bit long, so I think I'll leave that for next time. Question is what happens afterwards. That is something I have to think a little bit about. I'll do some world building probably before that. Try to do that as I talked about earlier in the stream. When I've done that, I will, unless I have of course already found out how to proceed, I will discuss some alternatives for taking the story further when I have gotten that far. But probably still a couple of days away. But for now, I think perhaps that this is it for today. A little bit of progress. And yes, thank you for watching or listening, and hopefully I'll be back again soon with the next part. Looking forward to that. But for now, thank you for watching and listening, yes, and goodbye. Bye-bye.